Morning, Mark.
Hey, Dan, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Fantastic.
I just got my advanced copy of Smart Leadership. I was wondering if I could ask you a couple questions.
Sure, can we walk and talk?
Mark, do you write for a specific audience?
Well, this book is written for any leader that wants to learn and grow. I mean, it's from frontline supervisors to CEOs.
Well, what makes you qualified to lead leaders?
Well, I've had 40 years of a front row seat of watching some world-class leaders, and I've made a lot of mistakes myself. So I hope I can share those lessons with others.
Where did your inspiration for Smart Leadership come from?
Well, we saw a lot of leaders struggling, and we just wanted to see if we could help.
Who have been the most interesting leaders that you spoke to during your research?
Well, we interviewed scores, if not hundreds of leaders. The most interesting was probably a Kung Fu grandmaster.
Now, Smart Leadership is all about choices. What have been your career-defining choices?
Well, there have been several, but I think the biggest one might have been the whole idea of lifelong learning. I had to make a choice to become a learner.
How do you identify your distractions, Mark?
Well, in the book, we talk about quicksand, and we talk about anything that impedes or restricts our ability to accomplish our goals. Those are the things that we've got to escape.
Now, what do you say to those that profess that they are not made of leadership material?
Well, you can learn to lead. Leadership always begins with a choice.
How do we know that those choices are smart?
Well, you got to read the book. You got to read the book.
Okay, that's a fair point. What questions should we be asking to evaluate our performance as a leader?
Well, leaders ask a lot of questions. We've devoted an entire chapter of the book to the topic of ask, don't tell. But let me give you one. It's, am I a serving leader or a self-serving leader?
You talk a little about mentors in the book. What should we look for in a mentor?
Well, a lot of folks aim too high and then they can't find anybody. I always encourage leaders to look for somebody that's just a little bit ahead of you on their journey and they're willing to help.
Now, if they're a little bit ahead, that means that at some point we will catch them. At that point, do we have to look for a new mentor?
Well, we hope that we catch them, but we stay with them as long as they can add value and help us learn and grow.
Is the way I lead a team or the way I build the team more important?
Well, every team has two agendas, a task agenda and a social agenda. Leaders have to be concerned with both.
So does that mean that I should be friends with the team?
Well, the best teams, the ones we call the high-performance teams, always have a sense of community, deep, genuine community. That's the goal.
I know a lot of leaders who say they enjoy having hands-on role in lots of parts of the business. Is that smart leadership?
Well, maybe not. I mean, leaders have to learn how to leverage their unique talents and gifts, but at the same time, we don't need to be doing someone else's job. So it's a kind of a little tricky question. I'd love to go deeper with you on that later.
Speaking of hands-on leaders, a lot of leaders find their time and energy being invested in countless hours of meetings. Is that just part and parcel of being a business leader?
Well, the world we live in is largely a collaborative world. A 12-year study of CEOs out of Harvard revealed that they spend over 70% of their time in meetings. The challenge for us as leaders is to be sure that those meetings are effective.
What about those in middle management, those who have hands-on roles but are still responsible for a team below them? How do you find time to lead but also work on the responsibilities that you have?
Well, it's challenging for sure. I don't want to minimize the question, but that is what the second choice is all about. You and I have got to learn to grow capacity.
Do you think that we can reach a limit in our ability to lead?
Well, I don't think the focus should be on our limits. I think the focus should be on growing our capacity and increasing our contribution. I don't like to focus on limits.
Mark, I know a lot of leaders are already mentally, physically, and emotionally drained. Learning and trying new things can be rather energy sapping. Is there a way to make this less so?
Well, you've got to grow capacity. That is one of the 4 smart choices. If you can't grow capacity, your opportunities are going to be limited.
Mark, I just got a couple more questions for you. Do you have a couple extra minutes?
Sure. Let's have a seat.
There's a famous saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I've heard many leaders often arguing whether this is true or not. Do you have an opinion on this?
Well, I think a lot of organizations get in trouble because they stop growing, they stop learning, they stop innovating, they stop growing their organizational capacity. So I'm very leery of a leader that says if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Mark, you've heard me ask a lot of questions here. Do you think there's a better way for us to ask hard questions?
Well, the better the question, the better the answers. So I'm going to let your audience decide if you ask these questions well.
Okay, Mark, one last question.
All right, one more.
Grilled or fried nuggets?
Oh, they're pressure cooked. They're my favorite.